Good Wednesday morning. This is Micah Mitchell with Madison County Weather Updates. It's about almost 11:30 as I'm doing this video, so it might be closer to noon before you get it. But I wanted to give you an update on the weekend storm and how things are looking today. And obviously, there's been a lot of conflicting information that's been put out, all based on what model runs are doing. And that, as my post noted last night, following the models every run will drive you insane, and it's not what you should do. So we'll take a look at how things look today, and I'll try not to make this video be as long as yesterday's. I do want to note that at the top of the Facebook page and at the top of the Twitter page, X page, there are pinned posts with information on how you can support this page financially. Thank you so much to those of you who do. Thank you to our page sponsors. If you can, if you don't support the page and you can, please do so, especially as we get into the winter, what it looks like it's going to be an active winter. I'll probably be on here doing a lot more of these. So if you can support the page financially, please do so. So I'm going to start off on a national view very briefly, just to show you the differences and why the models are doing what they're doing. I explained to you yesterday why the GFS I felt like was wrong. For whatever reason, the European kind of started to follow that suit. Although the European AI version of the European, that thing has not budged for days. It has locked onto a solution where we pick up pretty much all snow, and it has not budged. It might have tweaked north or south of County Row, but for the most part, that thing has not moved. But what the European is currently doing, and what all the models started to do yesterday evening when all the panic set in and the snow's going way north. I saw some pages posting stuff with laughing at the forecast for snow in Indiana, putting a big circle with a slash through it and all. I mean, it's even now, we're inside of 80 hours. It's still too far out to be real certain. But what was happening yesterday was the models kind of started to chase the GFS at first with this idea of the storm hugging closer to this stronger low up here. But what the European did is, you see us high out here to the east. This orientation right here would make this storm track, farther this way. Well, what the Europeans started to do is, you watch this low, and then the next frame, look what it does. Instead of it retreating to the east, it retreats it to the northeast. So as it goes to the northeast, that allows this low to chase farther to the northeast. So you get a solution like this where it starts off with snow and then changes over to rain very quickly. It's also slower. The Euro's not bringing any precipitation till Saturday evening into Sunday morning, and then it moves off with all rain, and then backside the temperatures plunge, everything refreezes and creates an icy mess, on Sunday. But that's what the European is doing, and that's why its solution continues to be, or the last couple of runs has been so far north, although it has started to tick back south itself. So sticking with the euro and looking at this closer up now, of course we're sitting right in here, kind of where that cross hair is, and you can see that the euro. This is by Saturday evening. It's just bringing precipitation in. It starts it off as snow, then by late in the evening it changes it to a mix, and then by the overnight hours it turns it into all rain as it moves across. And it really is strong with that low level jet pumping up in front of this. It's a little slightly more intense with the low, but again, at the strength that has this low pressure at, that strong of warm air advection does not make sense. Some make sense, but I think the euro is way too strong with that. So here's the newest run of the GFS. It's actually still generating as we speak, but this is Saturday morning, and it's already bringing some snow in. It's farther south with the low, but the track actually isn't that different from the Euro, but it's less intense with the low, so it's not pumping this warm air out as hard in front of the system, and that's kind of the big difference right now. You can see the low tracks off to our northwest, much like the Euro does, but this is just not as amplified. It's not pulling the warm air as far north. It's keeping it down here in southern Indiana, and then the low pressure moves off, and it keeps us all snow. Here's the Canadian. It kind of splits the difference on the timing. This is by Saturday afternoon, it's bringing the snow in. So the GFS brings the snow Saturday morning, Canadian Saturday afternoon, European not until Saturday evening. So there's still timing differences. That'll make a difference too, because if it's coming through it like the GFS shows, where you're in the heat of the day, the so-called heat of the day, um, you have a little better chance of getting some deformation banding going because you got a little more convection potential. So that would be something to watch out, is that timing of this thing. And then, but the Canadian kind of splits the difference on the timing. Then it begins to cut that low, much like the other two. It does bring some mixing precipitation Sunday afternoon, with the and the afternoon rainfall makes more sense, and then it gets it out of here, and of course then it would then wrap around the cold air very quickly, and again, any roads that don't have a chance to freeze are going to become and are not treated are going to be a problem. So any way you slice it, we're going to have some road issues no matter what. The question is just between the data is the timing, the intensity of that low. The track isn't really that different. What's different is how that low interacts with the circulation of that high pressure to the east. That high pressure to the east, if it's closer to us, it allows warm air to pump in a little better. And that's kind of what the Euro does before it retreats that low off to the northeast. So there's still a lot of variability in these model data. Now, this is just starting to get into the outer ranges of high resolution data. So this is the North American model, or NAM. This is again Saturday morning. Its timing is more similar to the GFS, but GFS and the NAM are both American data. But it's kind of interesting looking at what the NAM is doing here. It has the warm nose a little bit, hanging up here as we get into Saturday afternoon and into early Saturday evening. Then it changes to all snow, and it's heavy snow. The low pressure is still sitting back here, and that's as far as this model is going right now. Another run will come in 6 hours, and we'll be able to go 6 hours farther out. But just this early look at what the NAM is doing actually kind of makes a little bit of sense. If there's going to be warm air advection for it to happen kind of out on that leading nose of it, the Euro keeps it back here closer to the low. That would happen if the low pressure is more intense. So we'll kind of see, although it looks like the NAM actually has a relatively, well, no, it's kind of a weaker low. It's 10, maybe 10, 12. So it's a little weaker with the low yet. So it's just now starting to get into the outer ranges of the high resolution data. And so you're going to see snow maps that are going to be all over the place. I haven't really been showing you those other than the comparison between the GFS and the Euro night before last. So I will show you this right now, but again, what I said yesterday was I felt like we would be looking at snow, then rain, then back to some snow, and then falling temperatures. And right now, I'm kind of still leaning that way. For Madison County, I think we're looking at a 1 to 3, maybe 2 to 4 inch snow. And again, if that cold air gets in here a little bit quicker, this high pressure that's back out to the northwest gets that cold air into this storm a little better, or the storm develops a little more of a cold core where it can snow at 33 or 34 degrees. Those amounts could go up, but that remains to be seen. So I'll show you, the output from these different models, and then I'll call this video for the day, and we'll see how things continue to develop. But again, the key thing I want to say is, no matter what you're seeing, if you're seeing that we're getting 8 inches of snow, or you're seeing we're getting no snow from model outputs, Don't be living and dying by those things. This is what the data is showing right now. Later on, the next runs, this could be way south, and we could be getting a foot of snow like what it's saying, like what it looks like Iowa and northern Illinois and Michigan are going to get. All the data all of a sudden might drop that all way south and say we're getting that. That's never happened in November here in central Indiana. I think most Anderson's ever gotten in November is 7 inches from a single snow. So that would be unprecedented, and I don't think that's going to happen. But just saying, data could shift way south or it could shift back way north. It's trying to figure out. What I always tell you is the storm track isn't changing. The model's understanding of the storm track is what's changing. That's why you see them wavering all over the place. So I know it's fun to watch the forecast model runs come in, but don't live and die by those things or they'll make you insane. And just that's why the meteorology of it's so important. So we'll start with the Canadian since we can only get a regional view on it, and its snow total output for much of east central Indiana is about 5 to 6 inches, with the heavier snow swath kind of out here at this angle to the northwest. So areas like Terre Haute, Lafayette, Kokomo, Fort Wayne would pick up 6 inches plus. That's what the uh, that's what the Canadian is putting down right now. So here's a look at the regular version, the operational version of the European. And you can see that it is much farther to the northwest with the snow. It's got, Madison County, Muncie, hanging right anywhere between a half an inch to an inch of snow, with 2 to 4 inches running from Lafayette to Kokomo to Fort Wayne, and then the heavier amounts farther to the northwest. So that's what the operational European has. So here's a look at what the GFS is putting out. It's putting out anywhere between, you know, 4 and 5 inches for the corridor between Indianapolis, Anderson, Muncie, back to Lafayette. I'm not sure why it's got this little dip in back here for Lafayette, but I would expect them to be a little bit higher. But at any rate, this is kind of what the GFS is spitting out. And here's what the AI version of the European is spitting out. So you can see the vast majority of the modeling. I mean, we're getting some snow here. I've told you that from the start, we would get some snow. The question remains, no matter what these models say, is how much are we going to get? How far north? How intense is that warm air nose going to be ahead of that low pressure system? Does it even make it up here that far? It could be a setup too where we have 34, 35 degrees surge in at the surface, but then just above the surface, it's cold enough that it still falls as snow. And a lot of times we get big flakes that accumulate quickly when that happens. If that happens, that's kind of the way that big snowstorm, and not comparing the two, just saying that big snowstorm that we had in January on January 5th of 2014, it was like 35 degrees when that started snowing, and it snowed hard, big flakes, and it accumulated even though it was warm outside, relatively speaking. And but it still was just big fat flakes because even though it was warm at the surface, it was cold just above. So those are the kind of things that we're going to be watching for. This system's not over land yet. Everything's just starting to really show itself some based on what I'm seeing on satellite and everything. My gut is we start off with some snow. We maybe get a little bit. When I say rain, I don't think it's going to be a lot. Some of the data saying we're getting a quarter of an inch of rain. I don't think that's going to happen. But it may be a case where we pick up 1 to 3, maybe 2 to 4 inches of snow. Then we get a little bit of rain on top of it, and then the wind changes, the temperatures plunge, and then we end up with frozen snow on the ground. So I'll update you as this gets closer. Again, we're still, this is Wednesday. This isn't arriving until Saturday. It's probably going to be midday in your Thanksgiving before it really becomes pretty clear. But I feel pretty good about the way things are shaping up right now. So that's all I've got for you. If I see anything different, I'll absolutely update you again. the model data gets people clicks, both for and against. Snow haters love the pages that say it's not going to snow. Snow lovers love the pages that say we're getting a foot. Don't go by any of that stuff, and don't. And again, keep in mind, if the data says the storm's going here this run, and then the next run it says it's going somewhere else, the storm did not change. The model's understanding of the storm changed. So, I think people think that, oh, the storm track moved this way, the storm track moved that way. No, it didn't. So that's just that's why I don't forecast by the models. I just use them as a tool and for illustration for you. So I'm starting to ramble now. I'm going to cut this off again. I'll update as needed, but I would say expect an impactful snow on Saturday. The timing, whether it's Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening, that timing remains to be seen. But expect it and know that your travel on Sunday could possibly be impacted. So this is Micah Mitchell with Madison County Weather Updates. Have a great day.